Welcome back to We the Plaintiffs, a podcast built specifically for law students, destined for the plaintiff's bar and the courtroom. My name is Corbin Winward. I am a 3L at Baylor Law School. If you've been following the plaintiff's bar recently, you know that the way we try cases is shifting. And a perfect example of this is the landmark multi-million-dollar verdict against Meta and YouTube in the social media addiction trial, which just reached its verdict in March of this year. And this is where a nimble custom setup of AI tools effectively went toe-to-toe with a massive corporate defense budget. And obviously, they developed their own AI. Our guest today is right at the center of that intersection between cutting-edge technology and courtroom strategy. At the Shiley Marcos School of Engineering, Zach Kinzler completed a Bachelor of Science degree in Industrial and Systems Engineering, or IISE, where he served as the IISE president of that society. He also completed a Master of Science in Business Analytics at the University of San Diego at the Noss School of Business. He currently serves as the head of human AI solutions at BoodleBox, the collaborative AI platform that elite trial firms are using to build digital war rooms, manage hot documents, and stack language models to eliminate tactical blind spots. Zach was also recently featured in Forbes and the Wall Street Journal for pioneering the exact kind of new, highly specialized human AI collaboration roles that are defining the future of our careers. Today, we're going to dive deep into how his team helped reshape the trial space, what it means to build a digital second brain out of your trial notes, and how the next generation of trial lawyers can use actual human discernment to lead the AI revolution. Zach, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, Corbin, thank you so much for being here. Super excited to talk about this stuff. Like, one thing I like to add kind of in the legal world is my dad's a trial lawyer, Travis Kinzler out in Bozeman, Montana. So this case with Meta and Google is, like, funny enough, my first experience with trial work in AI, but I've been around it my whole life. So super excited to be here with you today.
Yeah, great case to start that. So can we dive into your background a little more? I know I briefly touched on it, but could you just kind of talk about anything I missed and how you ended up working in AI?
Yeah, totally. So a little bit about my background and how I got in kind of the AI world and the legal world too was like you mentioned, I have a degree in industrial and systems engineering. ChatGPT actually came out when I was a junior, and I was kind of an engineering student that loved talking to people, but wasn't always good at the engineering side of things. I was really good at the conversations, working with clients, stuff like that. But the actual technicality of things were really difficult for me. Still good at it. Don't mean to underwhelm myself. But what happened is ChatGPT came out and I was like, oh my God, I can do anything now. Like, the hard part, in my opinion, now is the human to human skills, right? So ChatGPT came out when I was a junior. I was really infatuated that all my teachers were saying it was bad and all my friends were just using it for cheating, and was kind of just confused. I tried to start businesses, tried to start a data analytics consulting firm, tried to start an ed tech company, and just really, like, anything that popped in my brain was, like, possible at that point. And then what it led me to do is just interview a bunch of college students about how they were feeling about AI, walking around, talking to my parents, talking to my dad, and was just confused why everyone was so scared of it. So then BoodleBox, the company I work for today, asked me to kind of lead their education forum because I was a college student, started to work with college kids all over the US. And then ever since then, I've really just been building, learning every single day. And then I really have a hard time saying no to things. So that's kind of how I landed myself in that legal case. And I've just been doing stuff with AI every single day since the day it came out. And that's how I landed here. Kind of a muddled background.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's distinguish, I think, most of us law students and anyone else watching, we've used ChatGPT. Can you kind of distinguish how BoodleBox is a standalone, different than what we've used before?
Yeah. So one thing I kind of like to, like, also ties into my background is, like, that was the other thing I was really interested in is, like, why AI was established as ChatGPT, right? Like, AI is a huge thing and AI has been around forever. But pretty much BoodleBox, the company I work for, is a collaborative AI platform that just gives you unlimited access to every single large language model. So there's tons of LLMs out there, like, to name a few: ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Meta's Llama, Amazon, Mistral, and a lot more, right? And they're all good at different things. So what we do at BoodleBox is we offer you kind of like a collaborative harness that gives you access to every single one of those. I kind of like to explain it using a car and a train analogy, which is funny. Like, when you're using ChatGPT, you're driving the ChatGPT car. There's an engine in the car, and the engine is what makes the lights turn on and the car go forward. There's also some fancy steering wheels and bells and whistles. BoodleBox is like a giant train that has all of the engines on it. You pick which engine powers the train, and we pay for gas, and our train's really safe. So inherently, we protect law firms, educational institutions from big tech companies stealing your data. So no models can train on any of the data in BoodleBox. They can't store it. Everything's encrypted. All prompts are anonymized. So Corbin, if you use ChatGPT through BoodleBox, Corbin is never touching ChatGPT. We anonymize all prompts. We are kind of a middle layer that adds security and collaboration. So the other thing that you can do is you can work with multiple models and multiple people. So Corbin, me and you could jump in a chat and have a conversation with ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and each other. Because that was the thing that I was really worried about in college, is that there was no way to collaborate. There was no way for me to work with my faculty. There was no way for me to work with my friends at school. So that was the problem that we really solved for, was the ability to have multiple people and multiple large language models all working in one place.
Yeah, I remember you showing the demo at the Linear Trial Academy. That was really cool. You could collaborate and you could see everyone talking to it, and it would switch between the models if you needed something else.
Yeah. So what's really cool about it is, like I mentioned at the beginning, everyone thinks of AI as ChatGPT. Claude's kind of coming to the forefront now, but they're all good at different things. They all have different context windows. They all have different abilities. They're all trained on different data. So I like to think about it like 5 experts in a room, right? If you can ask 5 people the same question, they're not all going to get it right, but they're not all going to get it wrong in the same place. So the ability to bounce ideas off of ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini within each other is incredibly powerful. That was one of the big reasons that Mark used this, is because if you can have more experts in a room, why wouldn't you, really?
Yeah, exactly. Tell us how it's helping with legal specifically, and, prioritizing human discernment over all the little tasks that it can take care of.
Yeah. So, the real reason, the way that we got into the legal world, I kind of like to explain is so Mark Lanier is on the board of trustees at Lipscomb University. So the Lipscomb University is one of BoodleBox's first full clients. So meaning that they have BoodleBox for all faculty, student, and staff. Mark was looking for a place where they could have multiple AIs in a secure environment. So what we were able to do is bring all of those together, and that's why he chose BoodleBox. But the real reason it's so valuable for law firms is first data security, right? So BoodleBox, we protect attorney-client privilege. We also allow for no models to train on your data. So legal firms are dealing with a lot of proprietary stuff, right? So when I was working with the Lanier trial, we had tons of emails, things like that you can't share in the public domain. So being able to have that data security protected is of utmost importance, right? And then the other thing is too, every single large language model interaction that most of us have had up to this point is one-to-one. You are working with ChatGPT, you are working with Claude, you talk, it talks, and there's no way to break that interaction flow. But the thing that legal teams really need is that's why big firms have more than one lawyer. That's why Mark Lanier has multiple law firms working on cases with him, is because you need multiple people to have that discernment. So what BoodleBox allows for you to do is have those multiple people in one interaction so humans can work together. I like to explain, work used to be spending little time planning, a lot of time actually building things, and then a little time of validating. That workflow is completely flipped on its head. Now we need to be spending more time planning, discerning thinking of what we need to be doing and why we're doing it. AI can do things really well. I like to say ChatGPT and Claude, they're incredible at making a bunch of pretty garbage. On this podcast right now, I can generate a 1,000-page book with pictures with no effort by the time that we're doing it. Writing things and doing things is easy now, and AI can do all of that, but we have to be thinking why we're doing it, what we're doing it for, and if we're doing is the right thing, right? So at the end, you need to be spending a lot of time validating what you're doing. So the workflow changes now of spending a lot of time thinking of a plan, and then the AI can do all of it. And then the last part, right, of validating is incredibly, incredibly important. So those multiple people in one chat allows for you to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's you still have to do work.
Yes.
But I think it's kind of more the fun work and not the grunt work.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about Mark Lanier's landmark $6 million verdict case against Meta and Google. I think Snapchat was involved too, but they settled out before the trial. So how did you talked about that collaborative intelligence approach. To your understanding, how did he beat Meta's and Google's AI strategy?
So what we did, I'd been working with Mark for a few weeks prior. And I was like, hey, Mark, if we're going to actually do this thing, you need to have someone who is specialized in the technology interacting with you who's specialized in the subject matter expertise. So what we did is Mark hired me and BoodleBox to come out prior to trial. So I came up to LA about a week before trial and we started prepping, working on everything that was going on. So what he did is we got all the documents uploaded into BoodleBox. So BoodleBox has a knowledge bank where you can store things. So what we did is the Lanier team uploaded all of the hot documents that were going to be used in trial. So then I was able to work with my expertise in the AI, and I was in the war room with Mark every single day pre-trial and for a week at the beginning of trial. And what we would do is I would help write an opening statement. So Mark would encode his expertise. He would put in all of the history of how he's done things, the 42 years of experience. He has kind of a little book, right, of how he does stuff. So whenever we need to do things, Mark would say, okay, Zach, he would draw a box and it would be called the field of knowledge. So the field of knowledge would include a few chapters of his how I do things. Then this document, this group of documents, the deposition, the historic cross-examinations of witnesses and things like that. And then I would go do a first draft, right? I would generate. So Mark would ideate. He would tell me what I need to do. I would go put things together. I would generate. And then Mark, Sarah, and Rachel. So Sarah and Rachel are Mark's two daughters. They're incredible lawyers and wonderful people as well.
Yeah.
So they would all jump in a chat and give feedback. So they would be like, no, Zach, I think we need to mention this. No, we need to do this. Then we would bounce that idea off of ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude, right?
Yeah.
So that was kind of just the beginning, right? Was getting first drafts. So I like to say the 90 before saying, I like to use opening statements as an example. So for an opening statement, I could generate 95% of Mark's opening statement, but that 5% is what is so important. And that's where he matters so much, right? That expertise of how you do things, how you're going to deliver it. So I would generate something. I would give it to Mark and Rachel. They would feedback. I would put it back in the AI in BoodleBox. We'd all give feedback and then Mark would go finish it. So that was kind of the basis of how we started. And then we got into some really cool stuff with building simulated juries so that when we had an opening statement, we could run these things by fake people before we actually did. Daily transcripts. Every single day, me and Bill Glass, the Lanier law firm, is their tech guy, incredible person. We would take that and we'd run it through two different jury bots. So we'd have ChatGPT and Claude versions of every person on the jury, right?
Wow.
We'd run those through it, get feedback. So then every night, Mark would have, this is theoretically how the jury is feeling. And that spread across all the case, right? So when we had a witness, we knew who was going to be called to the stand, right? So we could go historically look at how these people would do it and you could simulate it. So you could have an understanding, or even the bad guys, as Mark would call them, you could simulate how they were going to depose your witnesses. So then for witness prep, it was incredible. You had such a better idea of what they were going to do. And without disclosing any secrets, it was pretty crazy close to what people actually did. And the thing is I mentioned my dad's a lawyer. I've been around trial my whole life, but I don't know what I'm doing in any capacity, right? But I'm really good at the AI stuff. Mark is absolutely incredible. He calls himself a digital native, but there were certain things that I knew how to do that he didn't know how to do. So what you were doing is you were different expertise, put them together. AI was the thing that would bridge the gap, and it resulted in some pretty incredible results and is now being used everywhere. It's pretty funny, just transparently. BoodleBox has been used in law firms for about a year and a half. The CEO is a lawyer. He has a law firm in DC called Fluent Law Firm, but we had never taken it to trial. And that flagship case was really the first one that we ever did. I like to say it's like Michael Jordan testing your basketball shoes in the NBA finals for the first time. And now we have thousands of law firms around the US that want to use BoodleBox.
Yeah, thanks for that answer. Two things on that. I'm glad you mentioned the ghost juror bots. I've been telling multiple people about that since hearing about that at that conference. And it's really cool. I didn't realize you made two different versions to compare. That's cool.
And not even two different versions to start. We had 4 different versions.
Okay.
So there was 18 jurors, right? 12 jurors, 6 alternates times 4. That's 72 different bots that we were running transcripts through every day. And that became a little bit of overkill, but Mark Lanier is overkill and that's why he's so incredible. And then we kind of, after a few days, realized that it wasn't as valuable, a few of them, but if I was doing this again, I would do 6 if I had the time to do it. Cause that's the idea that people think of AI as they kind of think it like iPhones or cars where they're oh, it does the same thing. They're incredibly different and they're incredibly biased in different ways. So
Yeah.
that's what's so valuable about having multiple models is the ability to like get different perspectives and then you synthesize them again with different models. So we would take all of the feedback and then run that through ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini. So by the time that Mark had a piece of paper on his desk that said, this is how the jury's feeling, it had touched it had gone through large language models like 80 times.
Yeah. And then by the time it was deliberations, it was pretty accurate on what they were thinking, right?
Yeah. And the thing that's interesting, like Mark talks a lot about like system 1 and system 2 thinking. So
Yeah.
I always get it mixed up. Like whatever one, the initial thought, those things don't have that. Right. I've heard Mark Lanier is a pretty good public speaker. Incredible, I would say. And they don't see that. You know what I mean?
Right.
They don't see the demonstratives. They can read about them, but they can't see what was going on. So like what Mark will say is you're almost getting devil's advocate. Like you're getting worst case scenario kind of, which is incredibly valuable, right? You're getting like the worst case is they're confused here. And we're actually working on developing some things that could do system 1 thinking. That's a little harder to mimic.
I bet.
But
like with the facial expressions and everything a human does. Yeah.
And then we've even learned that like there's usually a juror watcher, right? Like someone in there that's like writing down like facial reactions and things like that. Like now we're going to be able to incorporate that, which will make it even better. But like the thing that's cool is like, it's pretty easy to do this, right? Like, I mean, it's not easy per se. Like I'd say it's easy, but like the idea is that like you are getting real feedback from these people. And it was so cool that you could add in like, hey, tomorrow we might throw in this demonstrative. Like, what do you think? And then you got some like insane, like, I don't know. I don't think you should do this. Or like, I'm confused on this word. Maybe you need to touch on that more. And it's those like little things. And that's the difference between like what we did and those like billion-dollar companies is they're using like out of the box stuff, right? They're using the thing that everyone can use. And like legal students, lawyers listening to this, like one thing that's insanely valuable to understand is like, if it's easy for you to use, it's also easy for the bad guy to use. Yes. So that's why you need something that is hard to use, that you have to put time and learning into. Otherwise, like it's just going to be two out of the box AI companies talking to each other. And that's the thing that I think we do so well is like, you need the human for this to work well. And all those other companies like Harvey, Westlaw, all those things like that, like Eve even, like you can build, like if it's easy to use, it's easy for everyone to use. Yes. And that adds inherently no value, right? Because it's just taking everybody up a step where you have two AIs talking to each other. And the real value is you need something that you can dump your brain into, collaborate with human beings, and then use AI to do the grunt work, really.
Yeah. And I think that's part of where the other side messed up. I think Mark was saying that at the end, they were doing the same things each day where they would put the transcripts in the AI. And they asked the AI, make us a closing statement. And they just kind of read it off verbatim. And there were mistakes. And Mark was able to just grill them.
Yeah. And it's the same idea where it's like, it is so easy to copy and paste. It is so easy to upload transcripts. It's like, I think the example that Mark used is like, where did Mark contradict himself? And it found two places that it contradicted himself, but then it also forgot that there's a bunch of stuff in the middle explaining the contradiction, right?
Yes.
And I think, insanely honored to be a part of like the first time that this was ever really played out in the courtroom, I would say, or like documentedly played out in the courtroom. But like what it was is that like they just used AI. We used people with an AI harness, right? And that's that's the thing where I think, not dogging on any like legal AI tools, but like if you're making something that instantly changes your life, it instantly changes everyone's life and it adds no value in my personal opinion, right? It's like you need things that are hard. And that's like, I ran a webinar this morning on BoodleBox and it's like the first thing that I opened with is like, transparently, you probably are not going to be able to figure out how to use this right away. You have to spend a lot of time doing it. And that's why it's going to help.
So talk to us more about the custom bots and incorporating, like Lanier talked about making a second brain. How does that kind of work?
So like, I like to think of a large language model like a zip file of the whole entire internet, right? So whenever you ask it a question, it can go like find everything that exists and answer your question. But a custom bot is like putting a box around that zip file that says, hey, large language model, you can only think, do, and act in these certain ways, right? So what that really allows for people lawyers to do is like, okay, historically, this is how I write opening statements. You throw that document into the custom bot, and in the instructions, you say, okay, you're going to help me write opening statements, and you're only going to reference this. So instead of it referencing generalized information on the internet, it's pulling from specific documentation of how you do things. So it's like a customized large language model that only listens to what you tell it to. So it's like Mark's second brain. If I was like, tell me about George Washington, it's going to be like, I have no idea about George Washington. It has nothing to say in here. So really what it's doing is it's translating experience and just like pushing forward how you do things, right? So every time, like the thing that's cool about it is we built second brains for everything. Like when I was giving the demonstration in front of the Lanier trial, like the trial academy, I like generalized it a bit. So I built one second brain that had all of the stuff. But in reality, what we did is we had like opening statement second brain, voir dire second brain. Every single thing he did was a very specific tool. So then when his legal team was working on things, they could bounce ideas off Mark before Mark ever had to look at anything, right?
Yeah, that's a huge, huge asset. Saves a lot of time, money.
Yeah. And like validation, right? So then instead of Mark having to go fix something, he just had to like barely like, okay, no, this is right and wrong in this way, compared to him having to just completely redo everything, right?
Yeah.
So it was like, again, it just brings it back to that 5% at the end that had to happen anyways, doesn't get any easier. I would argue it even gets harder. But the ability to spend more time on that is the real value. So that instead of Mark spending 3 hours writing his opening statement and 3 hours editing it, we could spend 30 minutes writing it and him 5.5 hours editing it.
Yeah, that's huge. If you're allowed to talk about this, I think Mark said he kind of snuck you in the hotel as his nephew because it was such a new thing that you were trying to get by.
Yeah, so it was pretty funny. Like he introduced me to everybody as his nephew. He still calls me his nephew, which is so cool.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, the whole story of how I got there was so funny. Like I'll never forget. I called my dad and I was like, hey, I'm going to work with this lawyer up in LA. Do you know Mark Lanier? And he was like, there's no way you are working with Mark Lanier in the room. Like there's no way. And I go there.
He's well known. Yeah.
I would like to say for everyone listening, Mark Lanier is actually the nicest, best human being I have ever met in my whole entire life across every single thing that I've done. He is the most genuine, happy, good person. So pretty much what happened is I had a hotel room in LA where the trial was going on. And I would kind of just sit in my hotel room all day, work. And then at nighttime when Mark would come back, I'd go up to his suite and work with him every night on just running things through. And I really do think it was kind of a test for Mark to see if what we were doing was working, because I'm pretty sure he was operating the same way that he would have before this, but then also was doing what I'm doing. And again, just hammering home, like, that is how you do it, right? It's like you do what you've done in the past and then you add this in and then you put them together. And like, that is what was so funny about it. And it was so cool at the end because I had been kind of working with all of these people that I didn't get to talk to or really know, and they didn't know that I was there. And it was just such a funny thing at the trial academy to kind of get to put, faces to names and stuff like that. But it was such a cool experience.
For sure. So, Zach, I think I mentioned you've been featured in some pretty big articles. I'm going to try to share my screen here. Okay, well, I'll share this one. So here's you in Forbes.
Yep.
And May of this year. And then here you are in Wall Street Journal. That's you. And yeah, that's awesome. I couldn't help but notice, because I'm a board gamer. I see this in the corner here. I see Settlers of Catan, and I think that's the 5 to 6 player expansion, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah,
I love that game. Me and my roommates play it like all the time.
Awesome. Well, is that your favorite board game, or do you have another favorite?
That is by far my favorite board game. Me and my roommates play that I've been playing that forever. And it's like, I don't know. I love Catan board games. Like it's not to bring everything back to AI, but it's just super funny. Like I've never been like a tech person per se. And the thing that I've always been is like someone that's like really apt to being okay to getting helped by someone. Right? Like in board games, I'm always the one that's like plotting with other people to like make sure like maybe I'm not going to win, but maybe I'm not going to lose. And that's why I like Catan so much. But it's like the AI thing is just like people think of it like it's going to change everyone's lives. And it's like, in my personal opinion, it has made my life like so much more busy and difficult because there's just so many things that you can do,
Yeah.
you know? And it's like, I don't know. It's such an interesting concept that I go so back and forth on. Like, I think the world's trying to move towards like automation and making everything fast and easy, when in reality, it's like just the quality of stuff that you're going to be able to come out with is just crazy. Like, we built like Catan a few weeks ago. Me and my friends played Catan and we had ChatGPT play.
Oh,
like
yeah?
we put ChatGPT in a seat, and then one of my buddies was
Okay.
like operating ChatGPT as Catan. And
Yeah.
it's like, it's really weird and funny. It didn't win because
Well, that's good.
yeah,
not quite there yet.
Not quite there yet.
In closing, what do you see the future of AI looking like? And I guess how would you advise law students to begin practicing with it if their school isn't already encouraging them to?
Push back with your school is the first thing that I would say. Like, things are going to change. And if you don't know what's changing, and if you don't know what's going on, whether you like it or not, burying your head in the sand does you no good. It does the world no good.
Yep.
The people running these companies are bad people, generally, in my personal opinion. You know, I don't know if Sam Altman's listening to this podcast, but I really don't think that guy's a very good human being. And it's like, if you don't want, like, the real reason that I'm so involved in this, like in the company that I'm with now, is that we do so much with data security and like education. So we like educate people on this stuff and keep your data safe. And I like to tell people, like, if you don't want Sam Altman to be able to play God in 5 years, I would highly recommend getting this stuff. And for law students, like, if your teachers are saying it's bad, like, argue with them for a reason and get educated on it and argue with them. Like, and certain things don't need AI. Like, again, I couldn't have done anything that I did without Mark, frankly, right? And that's because he has tons of expertise in this stuff. So you have to learn your stuff. If you are going to law school, this is my biggest piece of advice. If you are going to law school and you are cheating with AI, you're an idiot. Good luck in the future, right? Like, that's the thing. I have faculty members all over there, like, kids are cheating. And I'm like, why don't you walk into class and say, go cheat? Good luck in the future. Like, that's the thing that people forget about. Like, you're paying $80, $90, $100,000 a year to get educated on something and you're cheating your way through it. Like, good luck in 3 years when you're done. It's like, learn what you suck at. Learn what you don't know how to do well and use it there. What you are good at as a human being, this stuff will not be able to take that away. Work on your personal skills, work on conversations, network, talk with people, talk with teachers about why they're not using it. Especially if you want to do trial work and you have people in your school that are telling you that this should not be used in trial. Unless they're better than Mark Lanier, I would highly recommend bringing facts. Hey, this guy arguably is one of the greatest trial lawyers to ever exist, and he's using it for X, Y, and Z reasons. Please educate me on why he is incorrect. That is the number way that I would bring it to people. And it's just like, don't hide it. That's the reason that I'm here today is because I got one of the first times in class, junior year of college, I had a professor that's like, you cannot use AI to write your paper. I went into her office hours and I told her, hey, I wrote my whole entire paper with ChatGPT, but if you walk into class on Monday and ask everyone in class about their paper, I guarantee you I can talk about mine a lot better than everyone else can. And it's like, it's because I'm bad at writing. I'm good at thinking. I'm bad at writing. This thing was just like a vice to help me get to what needed to be good. And at the end, I had to understand all of it. So it's like, if you think you're cheating or shortcutting something, you probably are. That's the thing that I like to tell people. And like, don't shortcut yourself. Like, this should be the most exciting time to be alive. Like, in no world ever would I have ever been able to help Mark Lanier in any capacity. But because I know a lot about this stuff, and I'm very open to being like, stupid Mark, I don't know what I'm talking about here. I need you. Like, that's why it worked, right? Is I knew my stuff and I was so open to learning about his stuff. And the same with him. Like, very few trial lawyers of his level would ever let a 25-year-old walk into a room and help them in any capacity. But he was so open-minded to it. And that's exactly why we succeeded so much. And it's like, I don't know if Mark will listen to this. I'll send it to him. Hopefully he does. It's like, can't thank that group of people enough for being so open to listening and learning, because I mean, it paid off, right? And we all, everybody won in that situation. And it's just because the number one theme across that is no one thought they were the smartest person in the room in any of it. And it was just a big puddle of collaboration of people working together and putting what they knew a lot about to like one common goal. And that Lanier team is actually the most well-oiled machine I've ever seen in my whole entire life. The work, the sleepless nights was just incredible to see.
That's what it sounded like. Yeah. Hearing it from all of them at the conference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's crazy stuff.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, Zach, for joining us. Even if you're at the airport, I know it's a little crazy right now, and really appreciate all your advice and everything on this. And I'm sure students will enjoy to hear from you.
Yeah. And one thing I like to say, like, I learn something every day by talking to new people. Like, be open-minded and like ask questions. And if anyone ever wants to chat, I'm super open to talking. I love talking to students. My dad's a lawyer, like I mentioned, and I feel I was going to go to law school, but again, like I mentioned, I hate writing. So, and standardized tests, can't do it.
A lot of those.
Couldn't do that. So like, if anyone ever wants to talk about what we did, if anyone ever wants to learn more about it, let me know. I'm sure my information will be shared, but thank you so much. This was incredible, Corbin. I had a bunch of fun talking with you.